This thing really has a countdown. What's up, fam? I'm gonna wait for a few people to check in because we're live. And gonna be doing some storytelling because I just want to talk. And this is the first time I'm doing this. I don't even know if I'm doing it right. Okay, I got a viewer. But anyway, I just want to do some Facebook Live talking and storytelling. So y'all bear with me. So I want to talk about my flashpoint into consciousness and when I started, right? So, my flashpoint into consciousness started in 1993 with the Nation of Islam. But let me back up, right? So, I graduated high school 1987, right? Went straight into the Navy at 17. Was hanging around grown men at 17 in the Navy. Went overseas to China, Korea, Hong Kong, Japan, Philippines, Thailand, Tokyo, and all them places. And I had a ball. But while in there, I was stationed in Long Beach, which was close to home, because I'm from Los Angeles. And I used to be on the Navy ship in the shipyard, right? And at this time, I began experimenting with drugs, okay? Crack cocaine at that, and we used to lace it in our marijuana joints. And I'm in the service, so I'm not supposed to be smoking weed or doing anything. And I end up experimenting too much and kind of developed an addiction, right? And eventually, after 2.5 years, I had to take a urinalysis, and it came up positive for marijuana and cocaine in 1989. And they gave me a choice. You want to do 45 days restriction to the ship where you can't go nowhere, or you can get out. So at that time, I'm a youngster, a little hard-headed. I said I want out, and they put me out. Ended up getting a job doing collections, working for J.C. Penney's, right? And was still halfway using on and off. I met a girlfriend up there who was my first real love, and fell in love with this chick. Her name was Bridget. I'm still looking for Bridget to this day. And me too. Aomola, Miss Vincent. So I fell in love with this chick, and she kind of halfway straightened me out, but I never told her that I was using drugs or what have you at this time in 1990, right? And we had a beautiful relationship, and she worked at the J.C. Penney's where I worked at. But then as I was there, I'm young and my homies is around, I began to scheme and scam up at the J.C. Penney's, right? So what happens, I used to do customer service. So if somebody had a question about their J.C. Penney's charge card, they'd call and I'd answer their questions. I used to do collections and customer service for J.C. Penney's. So when people call in, they say, hey, I need an extra J.C. Penney's card, or my husband or my wife need one, and I hit the button, bam, and they'd get a card mailed out to them. So at this time, I got smart. And it was really dumb, but I had got smart. And what I did was I would go to work. I would change somebody who had a high credit limit on their JCPenney's card. I would change their address to my address, right? and I hit that button and I get a card at my house. I was at this time doing a whole bunch of cards. I would get all these JCPenney's charge cards mailed to my house, and I would sell them to friends. But I would use them also. Because at this time in 1990, you didn't need ID if you went to JCPenney's or Sears like that. You just gave them your charge card and they charge it and get it. So I had everything. My whole apartment was plush with JCPenney's. My curtains matched my rug, my bedspread. I had the baddest TV. I had jewelry. I had clothes and everything. I would get my friend's card. Then I got a little sharper, and I started putting in people's names. So if your name was, what's up, Roland James? If your name was Roland James, I put in Roland James, and a bunch of Roland James would pop up. Bam! I hit that button, and a card would be mailed to my house named Roland James. So here you go, Roland James. Give me $300. You can go charge up to $20,000 if you want at JCPenney's. My friends was acting a fool. They was buying jewelry, diamonds, and all kind of things. And I was doing my things. I was selling cards to everybody, right? And my drug addiction picked up, right? And what happened was I got high one day and I was fiending. And I had this gold link I had from JCPenney's and a watch to match. And my dumb ass went to JCPenney's to try to take it back to get a refund. They said, okay, Mr. Shelton, just come back in 30 minutes. We'll get an approval. And like a dumbass fool, I come back in 30 minutes. And I'm looking around me, and it's a bunch of thugs and funny-looking people around me. And come to find out, there was JCPenney's private security, right? I was thinking about running. I said, I can't run. They're going to tackle me and get me. They took me to the back of the JCPenney's room, pulled out my wallet, went through everything, and found out that I worked for JCPenney's at the corporate office. Their eyes got big. They went to my wallet and found all these numbers that had been charged off accounts, and I was a goner. So they said I ended up going to the county jail, right? And they said this is a federal offense, right? And it was a total of about $80,000 that was charged off on all these different cards. So I admitted to using one card that I got from somebody, and I said these are just accounts that I'm just trying to keep track of. They knew I was lying, but they couldn't prove it because when I get the card at home, I'd go back to work and change the address back to the original address. What's up, Ricky Ross? And but they knew I was guilty of something. So I ended up going to jail and going to court. And JCPenney's corporate office flew in managers from Washington and different states, these high-class men. They was in court with me. All these white professional men, they was trying to bust me and give me some federal time. I think it was like $80,000 worth of stuff that was charged off, right? And I ended up getting off because something about I made the government my crime partner, what have you, and did something through the mail. And I end up just getting charged for the one card, which was maybe about $1,500 charge off, and it was a petty theft. So did a couple weeks and got out. Once I got out of jail, I told my girlfriend and her friend who worked there what to do, and I was fired, and they started sending me cards. Right? No, matter of fact, let me back up. I got fired because I was in jail and the JCPenney thing, and they just totally let me go. Right? And it began to get hard, so my drug addiction took off. My girl who worked there, who I was in love with, Bridget, ended up breaking up with me. And it was the first time I cried and cried behind a woman. I mean, you know, I used to just be hurt and I felt pain in my chest. So I'm like 20 and I never felt that before. And I just had this pain in my chest. Bridget broke up with me. From that point on, I went on about a 2-year strong run using crack cocaine. From 1990 to 1993 is when I got clean. I went to a drug program, an inpatient program, and I stayed there 2 years, right? No, excuse me, I said 2 years. I stayed in that drug program for 8 months. But while I'm in the drug program, it was a cook there. His name was Jack, one of the most intelligent men I knew at that time, because I was a youngster, and he would always come in my room and we would have these discussions because I was a good little Christian boy and I used to have my Bible and things like that. Hey, Kim. Hey, Elizabeth. And I used to have my Bible and we would debate. And I'm like, nah, he was debate the Nation of Islam and I was a Christian. And we would go back and forth and he would eat me up every day while I'm in that drug program, just intellectually whooping my ass. So I'm so curious and I would wonder why he would always mess with me and want to debate me. And then I think a week later or so, he came to work and he was a cook. He had been a person who'd been in prison all his life. So he was one of the Nation of Islam cats that had cleaned up his life years ago, and he was just a cook. And he dropped a book on me. He said, read this book. And it was an autobiography of Malcolm X that I read in 1993. When I started that book, I couldn't put it down. And I couldn't put it down because I identified so much with Malcolm X's life when he was in drugs and he was doing things and in and out of jail and he was halfway pimping and things like that. And I identified with that. I identified when he went to jail and they used to tell the story of how he sat when he was in jail and read books. And when he read a book, he had the dictionary next to him with the book. So when he ran across words he didn't understand in the books he was reading, he would go to the dictionary and write down. He built up an extensive vocabulary. That's how Malcolm X got it, kind of intelligent, developed a vocabulary when he was in prison. So it was the same thing I did when I was in and out of jail and when I was inside institutions like a drug program. I would have my dictionary and a book, and that's all I would do is read every day. That Malcolm X, autobiography of Malcolm X book changed my life. I said, I want to be a Nation of Islam member, right? And I met this chick when I went to the mosque one day. She was an MGT sister, and she liked me, liked her. She became my second girlfriend, right? And what's up, Rick? She became my second girlfriend, right? And she would pick me up on my weekends sometimes from the drug program and bring me to the mosque in 93. And I sit in the mosque and they separate the men from the women. So she'd be sitting on that side and I'd be sitting on that side. And I just was intrigued by the ministers at mosque number 27. And I began to, it was a video store. So every 3 days I would rent a Minister Louis Farrakhan videotape and listen to a lecture. I would rent so many of these videos, and the store had closed down, and I had a drawer full of, I'm talking about no exaggeration, I had at least 50 videotapes of Minister Louis Farrakhan that I watched every day, all night. And that was my introduction to consciousness. Later on, in 1995, I met Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Dr. Khalid Muhammad came to Long Beach State to give a lecture. And my little lady friend said, let's go to this. So she took me up to Long Beach State, and we watched Dr. Khalid Muhammad give a lecture. And the title of his lecture was called The Art of War. So I'm 1 year in. I'm not suited and booted because I'm a loner, but I'm 1 year in. And I'm hearing Dr. Khalid Muhammad give a lecture live on the art of war. It was one of his most hardcore lectures ever. It's the lecture when he was talking about kill them all, kill the babies, kill the grandmamas, kill all. That was the lecture I seen live at Long Beach State. And I was so shocked and stunned. There was no Facebook. There was no YouTube at this time. You know what I mean? So a lot of things I didn't hear, wasn't hip to. But hearing Dr. Khalid Muhammad live at Long Beach State done something to me. I must have just sat there like, this man is a fool. But I was impressed, right? And I remember white folks started getting up out their seat and leaving the room, and he would talk about them as they was walking away. Dr. Khalid Muhammad was hardcore. He didn't give a fuck. but he was so brilliant and he had a way with words, right? So from that point on, Dr. Khalid Muhammad was my favorite. Him and Malcolm X, right? And Farrakhan. Them three changed my life. So today I may talk stuff about their theology and understand, but deep down inside I honor the Nation of Islam because they was my flashpoint, right? And into consciousness. And from then on, I remember I ran into some Moors. And they started having discussions, and we was having a little debate. And this was in, I think, 1996 at this time. And they showed me a picture of Noble Drew Ali and all these men in the picture. And they said, there go Elijah Muhammad. I said, what? What? I said, no, Elijah Muhammad was with the Moors before he jumped off the Nation of Islam. They said, yeah. And it was a picture of him. So I said, fuck that shit, I'm down with the Moors. So I started studying with Moors for about a month. I was going to the temple out here. And we stand up and we be praying, holding number 7 up in honor of the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. After a while, I was always been analytical. So I kind of continued to study. I never stopped. Then I ran into some Hebrews. And started going to the Hebrew Israelite temple. And that's when I kind of got back into the Bible, and I just thought they was on point and that nobody can beat them in a discussion and debate. They can prove everything they say. And at this time, I started college and went to LA Trade Tech College for 2 years straight and got my 60 units, right? And while I was in class, I had to do a report for an English teacher. And I did my report titled, Who Are the True Descendants of the 12 Tribes of Israel, right? And it must have been 15 pages long. And I thought I was just on it. I'm on point. Teacher I'm going to get an A and all this. And it happened to be a Jewish teacher, this white man, this Jew, right? I turned it in to him, right? And he went over it. And he gave me my report back, and I got a B+. I was mad. I said, why didn't I get an A? This shit was so meticulous and cold. And I thought about it. I said, he's a Jew. So he couldn't just give me total credit. And so from then on, this Jewish man, for the rest of that class, always looked at me strange. But he respected me, right? And I think he learned something from the little report I did too, right? Similar paths, I know, Rick. So look, after that, I started studying Islam. For some reason, that intrigued me because I got back into the Nation of Islam talking. Then I said, let me just go what the Orthodox Islam is talking about. So I studied that for a while and went to the Masjid, they call it. We call it mosque in English, but it was a Masjid. And I'm on the floor, bowing down, praying 5 times. But all the whole time, none of these things just sat right with me. I continued to study because I'm an analytical person, right? And I just started studying African history. And I remember Ashwar Kwesi came to town. And this was around 1997, 98. Ashwar Kwesi came to town. I watched him give a lecture. A year later, Ashwar Kwesi was scheduled to debate a guy named Pastor Colin Ackridge. That video is not even on YouTube. He had a debate with Pastor Colin Ackridge at West Angeles Church of God in Christ in Los Angeles, and I was in attendance. And Ashwar Kwesi ate that man up. This was before the debate scene. Wasn't that shit? Wasn't no YouTube. Wasn't nobody debating. But Ashwar Kwesi was in a debate in '97 against a pastor. Ate his ass up. Pastor left with his tail tucked. From that point on, I just started studying strictly African history and becoming a truth seeker. I was no longer a faith seeker. I became a truth seeker. And I started studying the Nile Valley teachings and things like that. And I was just on my journey. So that was my flashpoint into consciousness. And it's been a good, long, enlightening journey, right? So I always tell people that the best education I've had in life, I tell people I'm a student of life, but the best education I had was being a dope fiend and being in recovery. I learned a lot about people, right? And behaviors. And when I was in that drug program in 1993, at this time it was hardcore treatment. And all this soft shit they do now, it was hardcore treatment. And everybody in the group, a different day, what they call a tech treatment. They sit you in a chair and everybody's in a circle around you. All your peers. And they get on your shit and tell you about your shit, about yourself. So you got 30 people and you in the middle of a circle and they getting at you, oh nigga, this is what you're doing. You got ego problems, you this and this and that. And they shoot at you hard. That was called attack therapy back in them days, right? And you learn so much about yourself. Because sometimes they say, sometimes people can see you better than you can see yourself, right? So when people used to shoot at me, I would just, and you couldn't really, you just had to kind of take it and listen. You know what I mean? And I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot about my personality. What was wrong with me? What was I doing wrong? And things like that. You know what I mean? Thanks, Ross. And that was my greatest education, being a dope fiend. You know what I mean? I remember times I used to be all up in alleys in South Central LA and Compton, just running around getting high. You know what I mean? Just feeling, just feeling destitute. I remember one time I was in an alley in Compton, just sitting there. I had no more money to get high. I was still fiending. I had been up for 2-3 days. I didn't know what else to do. I'm just sitting on this couch, this dirty ass couch in Compton, a Compton alley, and I fell asleep on a couch in an alley, right? And I remember one day I went home because I was staying with my sister, and this is in maybe 92. I'm backing up. And as I was staying with my sister, I wasn't doing shit. She'd give me $5 to go to the store and get some bread. I'm taking that $5 to get a piece of rock. I don't show back up for 3-4 days later. Off of $5. You know what I mean? It's a cold-blooded drug. And it takes you everywhere. Right? So, she got so sick and tired of it. And I wouldn't do nothing but get high and go lay on the couch and go to sleep. Right? So, I think my mom said, don't let him stay there no more. Make him tough it out. And I called to come home because I was tired after 3 days. And she said, you can't come here no more. I'm like, what do you mean? I said, I'm hungry, Andrew. I'm hungry. I want to eat something. She sat me a cup of water and a peanut butter jelly on the porch. And she said, go sleep in my abandoned car. That's what I had to do. And the next day is when I went to a drug program, and cleaned up. So I've been clean now for 23 years, right? Hadn't messed with no cocaine since then. You know what I mean? And this is just my journey and my flashpoint. You know, from 1993 up until 2016, this is my journey, right? And I'm just a truth seeker now. You know what I mean? I stopped seeking faith. I started seeking the truth. And that's just my story. Appreciate y'all too. What's up, D'Anthony? And y'all got some questions or something? Cool. I'm just trying to scroll through these questions real quick. I mean, these. What's up, Shakim? Yeah, so I just wanted to do some storytelling and talk, and maybe somebody can get something from this. And just shoot the shit with y'all. You know? So it's just Friday night. I'm at home chilling. About to eat me some edibles. Hey, Elizabeth. Thank you, sister. Thank you, Kim. Love you too. And, you know, that's about it. Glad I listened. What's up, Corey? Yeah, that was a bit. That sandwich was good, Vincent. That peanut butter and jelly sandwich was delicious. And I was hungry as hell. I hadn't eaten in a few days. Oh, let me tell another story. Real quick. When I was a dope fiend, I was a pretty good hustler, right? So what I would do to get high and to get money, I would walk around parking lots like Kmart, Target, and shit like that. and I'd pick up receipts off the ground, right? And whatever was on that receipt, whatever item, I would go in the store and pick that same item up and walk to the customer service desk, and I had a receipt. But you had to make sure the SKU numbers, the numbers matched on the receipt matched the numbers on the box. And I would do that daily. Different Targets, Kmart's, where I was at, and that's how I would get my money. Plus, I'd hustle so good and bring the dope man customers, he started to give me a sack to sell myself to people who would ask for it. And why did he do that? I'm a dope fiend at this time in 1991, 92, right? He gave me a sack. He gave me a sack. And I took off somewhere and smoked that whole damn thing up, right? Next day I came back around with this little old sad story, right? And he just listened to me like, I said, man, this would happen. Man, this would happen. And he gave me a sack because I was a good hustler and I used to bring him a lot of customers, right? Hey, Vincent. And so when I came back empty-handed with the sad story, he just listened. And he had a beach cruiser. And we in Bellflower. He said, get on the handlebars, man. We're going to roll out. It's cool. And he put me on the handlebars and we rolled out. We're just going to do some more shit and rolled out. So when we got to our destination, you know what we used to do in the hood, right on the beach cruiser. So when we got to our destination, right, I got off and he just shooting. And all I can remember is turning my head to the right and I seen a fist coming. Bam! And just hit me. I fell out. I had been up a few days, was weak, maybe 110 pounds, soaking wet, and I fell like a tree in the middle of the street on the concrete, hit my head. I got a scar and a bald spot on the back of my head today from that. I have no clue how long I was out. I have no clue at all. I might have been out for a few minutes, being I hadn't slept in a while, and I just took a blow from this big old dope dealer. And all I do remember is staggering, waking up and staggering. I had blood on my t-shirt because when I hit the back of my head on the concrete, it was blood. And I had blood on my t-shirt. All I remember is staggering and wobbling off. And I just kept stumbling down the damn street. And I walked 2 miles to my mama house. And when I got to my mama house, she buttered me all up and fixed bandaged my head and babied me and said, you lay down and go to sleep. Don't go back out there no more. So, you know what I mean? It was some crazy times. And I tell people, it ain't too much I haven't done, heard, or seen. You know what I mean? So, you know, shit's crazy. It's times where I remember getting kidnapped. I used to have this it had this El Camino, right? And El Caminos was the shit at this time. My brother had gave it to me. And I ended up losing that El Camino. But I'm rolling around the El Camino, getting high. In 1989, this was. And I was looking for some old shit. So I say, hey, man, where can I get some shit? This guy said, hold up, man, I'll be back. Went to his apartment. 2 guys come out the apartment this time, right? One on one side of the window, because the El Camino's just a one-row seat. One on one side, the other on the other side. And they said, scoot over and get in the middle. One had a knife and one had a pistol. I'm high, fucking 110 pounds, 19 years old, and they scoop me in the middle. I got my hands up. Don't move. Put your hands down before I stick your motherfucking ass. Put my hands down. And these was dope things too, but they were some old gangster dope things up out of Long Beach, right? They put me in the middle and took off in the car. Put your hands down. Shut up. I'm just a kid on paranoid, right? And they pull up to some Mexicans, pull my sounds out the car, pull the stereo out the car, and ask me to help. You better help us. I'm helping taking my own shit out the car. And they sold my shit for dope and shit and got me back in the car. Let's go. Took off. And I had the nerve to say, as they driving the car, can I have a hit? So I took a hit and really got paranoid at this time. They put my ass out the car and pulled off. I ain't seen that El Camino since. That was the last of that. I need to make me a book. You right. I got some stories. I can't even tell y'all all these stories. You know what I mean? It's just so many. You know what I mean? Life has been a journey. So I tell people all the time, "Well, actually, what is your?" I'm just a student of life, plain and simple, right? I've had many experiences, and that's just what it is. So I just wanted to story tell and tell y'all how my flashpoint into consciousness began, and it took me to this day. One thing that never happened, I wasn't a dope fiend. I got clean before my first child was born. My first child is Jasmine. I had my first child at 25. And the lady I had her with, she was an older woman. She was 5 years older than me. Valerie, rest in peace. We had two girls together. And my daughter's mother passed away. How long ago was this? Maybe 10 years ago, right? No, about 11 years ago, 12 years ago, my daughter's mother passed away. And that was a trip. So I'm my only daughter's parent, a live parent, right? So rest in peace to Valerie Roy. Much love. And what's up, Shani? Andrea? Rhonda? That's what it is, oral traditions, African traditions. Yeah, so, life is just full of it. So I just wanted to really just do my first Facebook Live and talk, and, I ain't doing shit else. It's Friday night. And Shakim Arquette was doing a Facebook Live, so he inspired me to do something tonight. Anyway, y'all, it's Chief X. Just wanted to talk and share some information. Hey, Andrea. And that's it. I'm out. It's been 30 minutes of talking. Y'all be good.